I was 22 when I met Alex at that little coffee shop on Oak Street. I can still smell the fresh coffee beans and pastries from that morning. I was working the morning shift, my green apron probably stained with coffee, when he walked in. He wasn't like our usual customers. There was something magnetic about him. While others barely looked up from their phones while ordering, he made conversation. He asked my name, commented on the book I had tucked in my apron pocket, The Alchemist. I was going through my philosophical phase, and somehow turned a simple coffee order into a 15-minute conversation about dreams and destiny. That first year was intoxicating. Alex was everything I thought I wanted: successful, charming, and seemingly kind. He worked as a financial analyst, and when he talked about his work, his eyes would light up with passion. I loved watching him explain things, the way his hands would move animatedly as he spoke. He made me feel special, like I was the only person in the world who truly understood him. Our first date was at an art gallery opening. I remember feeling so out of place among all those sophisticated people, but Alex held my hand the whole time, whispering little jokes about the pretentious art descriptions. "This one's called Untitled Number 7, he'd say in an exaggerated posh accent, because the artist ran out of pretentious names for blue squares. Looking back now, I should have noticed how he subtly criticized my knowledge of art that night. "Oh, you've never heard of this artist? They're quite famous," he'd say, or "That's an interesting interpretation for someone who's new to this scene." But I was too enchanted by his charm to see these comments for what they were: the first drops of poison in what would become an ocean of subtle put-downs. The changes were so gradual, like watching a sunset. You know the light is fading, but you can't pinpoint the exact moment when day becomes dusk. It started with small things. Alex began helping me make decisions about my life. When I mentioned wanting to take evening classes in photography, he convinced me it wasn't practical. "You're already struggling to balance work and our relationship," he said, his voice full of what I thought was concern. "Maybe you should focus on what you already have." That was the year we moved in together. I was so excited to create our home, but every decision became a subtle power play. I wanted to paint the living room sage green. He insisted on beige because green is an amateur's choice and you'll get tired of it quickly. I gave in because I thought that's what compromise looked like in a mature relationship. The incident with my sister's wedding still haunts me. I was supposed to be the maid of honor, and I'd spent months helping with the planning. The week before the wedding, Alex got an important work opportunity that would require us to miss the rehearsal dinner. He made it seem like I would be holding him back if I didn't support this. "This could be huge for our future," he said. "Don't you want me to succeed?" I missed the rehearsal dinner and my sister was hurt. Alex never mentioned that work opportunity again. I started keeping notes on my phone about our conversations. At the time, I told myself it was to be a better partner, to remember the things he said were important to him. Now I realize I was doing it because I had started to doubt my own memory. There was this dinner party with his colleagues that I can't forget. I'd spent hours preparing this complex pasta dish from his mother's recipe. As we were getting ready to leave, he casually mentioned that he'd told everyone I was an amazing cook. The pressure was intense, but I thought I'd managed well. The pasta turned out great, everyone said so. But on the drive home, Alex said, "Next time, maybe we should just cater. Your cooking was a bit amateur. Did you see how Thomas's wife barely touched her plate?" When I brought this up the next day, saying I was hurt by his comments, he looked at me like I was crazy. "I never said that," he insisted. "You were probably just tired and imagined it. Besides, if I did say something, it was just constructive criticism. Why are you so sensitive?" I started doubting everything. My memories, my perceptions, my feelings. Was I too sensitive? Was I imagining things? The notes on my phone became my anchor to reality. My world started shrinking. Looking back, I can see how methodically Alex separated me from everyone I loved. It started with my best friend Sarah. She'd been my rock since high school, But Alex had a problem with her influence on me. "I don't like how you act after you've been with Sarah," he'd say. "You become rebellious, difficult." The irony is, all Sarah did was remind me of who I used to be. The girl who laughed loudly, who dreamed big, who didn't constantly apologize for existing. The breaking point with Sarah came after my 26th birthday party. Alex had insisted on hosting it at our apartment, saying he wanted to do something special for me. But the entire evening felt like a performance. He played the role of perfect boyfriend, making elaborate toasts about our love story, but I caught him rolling his eyes every time Sarah mentioned our old adventures or inside jokes. After everyone left, he exploded. "Your friends are so immature," he spat. "Especially Sarah. All those stories about your wild days. Is that really the image you want to project?" My colleagues were there. "Do you ever think about how this affects my reputation?" I defended Sarah, but Alex had a way of twisting things. "I'm just looking out for you," he'd say. "You're growing, evolving. Maybe Sarah is holding you back." He started finding excuses for us to miss gatherings where she'd be present. When she got engaged later that year, I missed her engagement party because Alex had suddenly planned a romantic weekend that couldn't be rescheduled. Sarah stopped calling as frequently. Our texts became sporadic. Now I understand it's hard to stay close to someone who's slowly disappearing. The pandemic should have brought us closer, but instead it exposed all the cracks in our relationship. Trapped in our apartment, I started dreaming again. I spent hours online researching photography courses, looking at cameras, planning future travels. One night, I excitedly showed Alex my idea for a travel photography blog. "Really?" he said, not looking up from his laptop. "A blog? Isn't that a bit 2010? Besides, your photography is more of a hobby than a talent." That comment lodged itself in my heart like a splinter. But I persisted, showing him some photos I'd taken around our neighborhood during our daily walks. "They're nice," he said with that condescending smile I'd come to know so well. "For Instagram, maybe? But let's be realistic, you're not exactly National Geographic material." Then came the incident with the online photography course. I'd saved up my own money, carefully budgeted for months. The night before I was going to enroll, Alex initiated a serious discussion about our finances. "I've been looking at our joint expenses," he said, spreading spreadsheets across the dining table. "Your spending habits are concerning. Do you really think now is the time to waste money on hobby courses?" "It's my money," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. "Our money," he corrected. "We're a partnership, remember? Your financial decisions affect both of us." "What about our future? The house we talked about buying?" "I never enrolled in the course. The money went into our joint savings account instead." Alex praised me for being mature and thinking about our future. I felt like I'd passed some test, but failed myself. I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. The confident, ambitious woman I used to be had been replaced by someone who second-guessed every decision, every thought, every feeling. The incident at his company's summer barbecue stands out painfully clear. I was talking to his boss's wife about my dream of traveling across the country in an RV, taking photographs of national parks. It was the first time in months I'd felt excited about something, felt like myself. Alex overheard and smoothly inserted himself into the conversation. "Oh, she has these cute little dreams," he said, wrapping an arm around my waist that felt more like a restraint than an embrace. "But she's afraid of spiders and can barely handle our camping trips to the local state park. Isn't that adorable?" Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but something inside me crumbled. Later that night, when I told him how humiliated I felt, he turned it around on me. "I saved you from embarrassing yourself," he said. "Margaret's husband owns one of the biggest travel magazines in the country. Did you want her to think you were some naive dreamer? I was helping you maintain professional credibility." I started having panic attacks that year, though I didn't recognize them as such at the time. My chest would tighten, my hands would shake, and I'd find myself struggling to breathe. Alex would sigh dramatically whenever this happened, telling me I was being dramatic and needed to get control of myself. The cracks in my carefully constructed prison started showing. It began with a simple Facebook message from Sarah, my old best friend. She'd seen some photos I posted, the few Alex approved of, and reached out. "You look different," she wrote. "Your smile doesn't reach your eyes anymore. Are you okay?" Those words shattered something in me. I spent hours staring at my photos, comparing them to ones from years ago. She was right. My eyes looked hollow, my smile practiced and perfect, just like everything else in my life had become. That summer, I had what Alex called my little rebellion. I bought a small camera without consulting him first. It wasn't expensive, just a basic DSLR I found on sale. When he discovered it, his reaction was explosive. "So this is what you do behind my back?" he said, his voice eerily calm. "Make financial decisions without consulting me? What's next? Are you going to empty our savings for your little hobby?" "It was my personal spending money," I defended weakly. "There's no such thing as personal money in a relationship," he countered. "Everything we do affects both of us. I thought you understood that by now." But something was different this time. Maybe it was Sarah's message. Maybe it was 7 years of suppressed dreams fighting back. But I kept the camera. It became my secret act of defiance. I'd take it out when he was at work, capturing images of life beyond our carefully controlled apartment. The real turning point came during a dinner with his family. His mother was showing everyone photos from her garden. Simple snapshots of flowers and vegetables she'd grown. Alex started his usual routine of subtle criticism, pointing out how she could have framed things better, how amateur the lighting was. I watched his mother's face fall, saw the same expression I'd seen in my mirror countless times. Something snapped inside me. "I think they're beautiful," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in years. "They capture joy. That's worth more than perfect technique." The silence at the table was deafening. Alex's face darkened, but his mother, her eyes welled up with tears, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. That small moment of connection, of standing up to him, felt like taking my first real breath in years. This past year has been a slow awakening, like coming out of a long, dark tunnel. I started therapy in secret, telling Alex I was taking a weekly yoga class. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, helped me see patterns I'd been blind to for years. "What you're describing," she said gently in one session, "is emotional abuse." I remember laughing nervously. "But he's never hit me," I said. "Abuse isn't always physical," she replied. "Sometimes the deepest wounds are the ones we can't see." Last week, I found my old journal from college. Reading it was like meeting a stranger, a young woman full of hopes and plans and wild dreams. She wanted to photograph wildlife in Alaska, write travel books, live in a tiny house. She wasn't afraid to take up space in the world. That's what led to last night's confrontation. I'd been thinking about that journal all day, about the woman I used to be and the shell I'd become. When Alex came home, I tried to talk to him about the distance between us, about my fears that our love was dying. His response was typical, "You're being dramatic again. Why do you always have to make everything into such a big deal?" But this time, something was different. Maybe it was because I'd spent the day with my younger self through that journal. Maybe it was 8 years of suppressed anger finally boiling over. But I didn't back down. "I'm not being dramatic," I said. "I'm telling you how I feel." That's when the mask really slipped. He threatened to block me everywhere if I hung up our phone call, then minutes later denied ever saying it. When I quoted his exact words back to him, he smiled that condescending smile I've grown to hate. "You really believe that? You read too much into my words. You're too emotional as usual." I hung up anyway. He blocked me, then unblocked me, then started calling repeatedly. I didn't answer. Instead, I texted him that I needed time alone. Now I'm sitting here, writing this all out, and I'm terrified. 8 years is a long time to give to someone. 8 years of memories, of shared dreams, or were they all his dreams, of building a life together? But I'm also terrified of spending another 8 years disappearing piece by piece. I look at the camera I bought last year, hidden in my desk drawer. I look at my old journal. I look at the RV websites I still secretly browse. And I wonder, how do you walk away from 8 years of your life? How do you start over when every decision you've made for nearly a decade has been filtered through someone else's expectations? Am I crazy for wanting to leave? Am I crazier for considering staying? I know what Sarah would say. I know what Dr. Martinez would say. I even know what my 22-year-old self would say. But after 8 years of being told my judgment can't be trusted, how do I trust myself now?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.